You're listening to Polymatic.media, episode 96 for November 2022. Welcome to the Polymaticast. Hey, John, I'd ask you how you're doing, but we've already been talking for like an hour. So how are things?
Things are good, besides the fact that I'm slowly moving down because the gas spring in my chair is still broken.
Yeah.
I need to go and buy a new one. Slowly going down.
You remember that, right? I bought two chairs, right? The one I'm in right now is the one that used to sit in the studio that I literally would only show up for like a few hours a week, right? Most of that one was recording OG, and for like all of 20 minutes or something when I was recording the other podcast. So or when I sat, when we recorded. So like, once a month, this particular chair did not receive my weight or my activity at all, right? And so the one that was sitting at my desk upstairs basically had me body slam into it all day, whether I was working or whether I was just, chilling to watch something at my desk. And eventually the gas spring started to go. So I had this sort of thing where I reached out to them, got a hold of the support of the company's support, and I said, hey, the piston just keeps sort of deflating on me, and then it just, it just feels like it's trying to make me feel small or something, because all of a sudden it just gets stuck in this mode where it has to constantly deflate, and then it just stops. And it's like, can you send me a new piston or something? And I'll figure out how to crack this thing open and swap it out, because that's how I assembled it. And they're like, yeah, I think you're under warranty. We can do that. So I have this piston. I probably could reach around and grab this thing and show it to you. No, I think I put it up there on the shelf. And so I was having the same problem. And once I looked at the chair, it sort of locked in. I, for life of me, cannot figure out how
I need
to get it
to use a thing for that to take it out.
Yeah, like you can lift up the thing or whatever it is, and you can kind of see the neck of the chair. And for the life of me, I can't figure it out. So I've just left it over there. So I'm using the second one. It's been great. No problem. These are real nice chairs for like a third of the price of any kind of gaming chair that you would get,
Yeah.
But they're comfortable. I recommend them. Yeah.
Yeah, I've just got an IKEA thing. It's fine.
I'm very particular about it. I did that one time where, you remember that old junky chair that I had, right? Finally junked it when I moved.
Yay.
My father sat it. He's like, oh, this is comfortable. I was like, Dad, I've had this thing for like 20 years and I refused to replace it until I finally got fed up. It's like, oh, it's just like, no. There's like, if you leave your arm on there, like screws are going to be like, hurting your arms.
Yeah,
and
that
stuff.
sounds like a bad time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just at some point I need to get some more chairs in my apartment, because there's just a lot of desks, but not enough chairs. I have like one chair in between all my desks because Rona, and I had to I couldn't go to IKEA or whatever and just buy some extra chairs. So I've been moving this chair around every time I move to a different desk.
Yeah, I guess the only two chairs that I have are up here, right? These are the two gaming chairs. Everything else is stools that I had over the course of years of between houses. Do you remember those sort of like high stools that were good for like putting your laptop on?
Oh, I remember
To be
those.
sort of next to, that's sort of we use them.
You had them next to the seats.
Yeah.
For people at the recording.
And so I still have those, and they fit just fine, perfectly in the at the kitchen island. And then I had a couple other stools that I bought at IKEA that I always put any boxes, like whether it be soda or sparkling water, they put them I'd stick it on that stuff, or the water bottles that I would buy come in these sort of case boxes, and so I'd stick them on that. So they had sort of like rubber cement or sticky glue or whatever on top of them, and I have to figure out how to clean those things up. But those are really good sturdy stools. I think I need to buy some new ones, but I don't have a couch yet. I don't have chairs or a dining table yet. So like that's it. These are the two chairs that I have in the whole house. So yeah.
Yeah. So a colleague of mine, a new colleague of mine, has moved from Brazil to the Netherlands, and he's
Wow.
like he's been looking for a place. I think he finally got a place, and then he's moving in next week something. So
Hmm.
yeah, uh, lots of people in the orbit are moving and stuff. It seems to be a thing that's
Well, I
happening.
mean, like my a thing that slowed me down for a really long time um was one I had to figure out where my money was in terms of resources. Like, these are things you sort of let sit and then they build up into large amounts, pools of money. And then, I didn't have an evaluation of that. So I had to forcibly get myself out to a pattern to see if it was even realistic for me to achieve what I just achieved. Um, and then, inflation, market, wars, it doesn't really matter. Whatever market excuses come up, greed kicks in and everyone um, leverages it, takes advantage of it. I think there's a better word for that. But this is what's been happening. And in the US, the rates historically have been going up. And while maybe a year or pre pandemic, they would sort of peak and valley. That was sort of the pattern. I've been that way for 20 years. And if you were in that window, yeah, you could get to a place of nice house, affordability, good rate if you had all the right sort of uh, liquidity and income portfolio and everything. But that is sort of been less and less true, and definitely in San Francisco and definitely in New York City. And they're just the big cities were fully taking advantage of the situation. And then the rates have been going up. And when I started this process back in March, which I would say is probably too late, the numbers were at least 2 or 3% less than where I ended up in terms
Hmm.
of my range. They were really good, or
So
not great, but better than and there was no real indicator they were just gonna skyrocket. And now, I think in the U.S. they're like 7 or 8 now, and I'm nowhere near there in terms of my rate, but
I
it's just absurd right now, and there was never going to be a good time to buy a house.
mm,
And my whole point of this rant was I needed to move. I was done doing what I was doing, and there was never going to be a good time. So I sort of bit the bullet. But in a year, I can refinance if the rates are down. So,
I when I got my apartment 10 years ago, I I got a 4.5% interest rate.
mm-hmm,
And in May, when the initial interest rate stopped this year,
mm-hmm,
um, I could renew it for like lock it for another few years.
yeah,
So I locked it for 20 years at 1.5%.
mm-hmm.
So I got very lucky, I
Well,
think, because
also,
now the prices are
I
through
mean,
the
I think
roof.
a key factor, because I remember when I started this process, I started with the bank, not knowing who I should talk to yet. So I started the process, and my debt to income ratio was really low. Right now, got to keep in mind, I'm spending more money to own a house versus rent. Um, yeah, and then not that it should and I already did the budget. It won't impact me, but I did have a little bit of income coming from a roommate, right? So my sort of on the record, my debt to income ratio was even lower, right? Because at least I had some contribution coming in. And I don't have that anymore. But I wasn't dependent on it, right? That allowed me to be more liquid on, um, buying more filming gear and stuff like that, right? And we're talking about like light stands and lights and another C stand, like that well enough fits into that contribution, right? It's not like I'm buying a new lens that's $6,000. Like it was not that kind of contribution level. So yeah, but it's all gonna work out. I mean, that's not even a thing I'm saying. Like I know it will work out. In fact, even on my way of through this process, um, it's actually money came in that like people owed me and stuff, and it all worked out just fine. So,
Nice.
it's that thing where I was sort of mentally locking myself from, and again, the point of my argument is there was never going to be a good time, like ever. Well, no, wait, to another 30 years. Um, wait, I don't even know if I'll live that long, right? I mean, I hope that I will live that long and I will pay this house off well before that time. But my point is that, like, there's never going to be a good time for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
So, and then someone says, oh, in a year you can refinance. And if the rates are really good, then, you will you lower everything. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah. They just want to make sure that you prove that you are a good bet. And if you
Mm.
have a record of history that you're a good bet, they will make it easier for you to have less debt in the end. So when you look at that, that 30-year amount, like you don't have to lock in for that forever. You can refinance.
Yeah. Well, now it's the house cast.
Yeah, it's a house cast. But so there's some part of me is just like, these values keep going up. Oh, this is terrible. It's not good for the market. But I was like, wait, I benefit from that problem because the value of my house goes up. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's all artificial anyway, but
right. Yeah, I know. It is. It's all based on a comp system here in the U.S. It's just you know.
yeah, the houses over there are insane in price. But then again, they are insane here right now too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
I think it's everywhere in the
it's
West
it's
anyway.
taking advantage of a situation, and that's the end of it. There's nothing you can come up. You could fabricate all kinds of other reasons. Oh, we had a bad problem. We lost a lot of trees. Yeah, I hear that. You understand though when a developer goes and builds a house that they reserve and they put money in advance and they reserve their lot. That's why a lot of these yards, stock yards, are holding stock, right? It's not like you drive up and you're like, oh, what is all that stuff? Because someone already paid for it. They just aren't ready to pick it up and put it into a house yet. You know.
Okay, so what's the weirdest thing you ran into after you got the house, after you got the keys? What's the weirdest thing, or when you got the keys or
Oh, maybe
whatever?
there's two things. So, the
The
I
weirdest.
the well, it's not so weird, but I walked in the door and I saw once I went in the front door, there was something on the ground in front of the door, I guess to like make sure it was stay clean, and it was just looked like it was somebody's uh like pajama pants or something, right? And they clearly grabbed it out of their truck and they just tossed it there. And so I was like, oh, that's probably the builders or as a contractor or something. So I went and I grabbed that and tossed that in the trash. I was like, I hope they're not going to be mad that I did that if they come back for it. So, and it's probably if you go over to Target, it's probably not more than like $15 or something. What did I toss out? It wasn't like it was a super expensive, high class $80, sweatpants. It was just like clearly it was just something they knew that they want to make sure they weren't bringing in mud or something. They weren't bringing in outside in, keep the house clean, and so um,
It's like it was from the people that went and had a séance in your living room.
yeah, no, nothing like that. Um, but and yeah, I don't really think there's anything weird. I really, I mean, that's really like minor, right? So,
Did you have the how's the Halloween atmosphere around the neighborhood?
across the way, um, it rained out, So like the guy's I he's the guy who was the electrician for the house. He apparently like lives up a couple blocks up. So he's sort of local. So he's basically, I'll just call him my neighbor. Um and uh and so I just said to him, I said, "All right, Halloween situation, what should I expect?" And he's like, "Oh, it's probably going to be light this year, probably only 150 kids." And I'm like,
150 kids. Holy crap.
right. And he's like, "Yeah, it's probably going to be real slow this year." And I was like, "Okay." And then I got like 15, and then it basically rained out within less than 90 minutes. So um, it basically kind of all stopped, right? All the kids went away in the neighborhood. So I definitely know uh, there are kids around here.
Did you put stuff up on the
No, I didn't dress the house up because I didn't unpack all that stuff. I don't know where half that stuff is yet. I did toss some of it out. I
yeah.
gave some of it. I put some of it on my neighbor's porch at the old place. Um, so I don't even know where that stuff is. I have an idea. And there's a couple bins and boxes that I have yet to sort of unearth. Because when you're packing, and you fill a box up and they go, "Oh, I can put a bunch of DVDs in there," and then you put a bunch of DVDs in there and they sit on top. So whatever is layered on the bottom of it, I don't know yet. I was looking for my audio interface, and uh, I know I packed it. I know it wasn't in a pile. I'm pretty sure my father didn't grab it to take it to the scrapyard for junk. And it's not like my end of the world. I have other ones, and I did survive on one for like 2 weeks. And then when I was preparing to build furniture over here, up here for these little cube shelf things, I moved that pile of cables that you were commenting on earlier. And underneath all the sort of toys that were sitting on the bookshelves that were sort of atmosphere down in the studio, uh, where I unpiled it, and there was a stack of audio gear. And here's this thing I was looking for 3 weeks. So um, I've,
Did
for the most part, I found most of the things I expect, but then I put them in new piles that'll eventually, get them coalesced into a more organized place. So
yeah. Lots
uh,
of unpacking and
yeah.
getting things back to normal.
But the point was that all the stuff I would have immediately for Halloween stuff, I just don't have. And I think I'll put some kind of maybe a holographic film or something up on the window that faces basically the street, and maybe I'll reverse project something on that at some point, like I did with the old house. And that will definitely gain attention around here because there's lots of people walking by and there were lots of kids.
Yeah.
So
Just don't
I
turn your house into one of those automated with the radio stuff.
no, I've been seeing some of the new ones where people are like turning. They have these light systems on the trees, where they've been able to kind of create like actual little characters who are having a
Well, animations,
conversations.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, seen that a lot on TikTok. I mean, pretty interesting. I'm not. I will never be one of those. Those. Did I ever send you the video of my friend Vic and what he does to his house?
I
Okay,
don't
so
think
I
so.
don't know what this year looked like, but I'll find those videos.
Yeah.
He him and his wife really go out. He saw that the reverse projection thing I did at the old house. I had a video, and he took it a step further and got holographic film in his bay window. And then he was, because he's got plenty of projectors, and he was projecting these sort of spooky ghosts in the windows. And he's got a lot of windows facing the front. And so he had put these sort of floating ghosts and holographic, look like in Ghostbusters kind of thing in his windows. He totally went out. He is one of those people. Uh, he is the house that is known to scare everybody. And the kids, are afraid to go to the house, and or they get old enough and they love it. So I've never joined him on one of those nights. I thought about doing it when I knew no one was going to show up for Halloween, trick or treat at the last place. Um, but I never sort of went, if it's on a weekend maybe. But now now I have a whole audience to entertain here, I guess. So I'm sure I
Hmm.
will find. I will probably do this a similar thing. I will get that holographic tint or something, and I'll put it up here in this window up here, and I can definitely put a spooky ghost that like where the window's dark and it flashes and from the street it could look spooky. So
Yeah. Speaking of spooky, those cables, man. That's so many cables.
well, that's the point of getting the shelving and the bins so I can kind of organize them and put them in. But I needed to move them out of the way. That was all the stuff that was how the studio was wired before.
Yeah.
And it was also a combination of um, overflow from previous studios where I just wanted a newer, cleaner cable.
Uh huh.
And then also stuff that I bought for filming gear on the go when I was doing the interviews and documentary stuff. So I sort of got those things sort of organized into certain bags so I can go grab and go. And, that's aside from that pile. So,
Yeah. So this week, was it this week or was it last week? Elon Musk bought Twitter.
mm-hmm.
Now for something completely different.
Yeah.
Um, the uh, the influence of that has been felt around like the art, Twitter art community. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been very interesting, to say the least. I think I think a lot of I think most people are feeling like it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, but I mean, didn't we feel that way a while ago as well, right? I mean, we felt that way for a long while. That and I'm sure that everyone, whether they're smart enough to realize this, it's taken them 20 years to realize this, but we have the same problem with Facebook too. We have the same problem with basically all the social networks.
Yeah,
Um,
I think the difference is that with Facebook, he already owned it, right? So it wasn't a change of like ownership or whatever. And with Twitter, there was just a balance of they were working uh
I
on
don't think they were working on much of anything. Actually, let's just start with that. So let me just because I own a Tesla, I am not necessarily a defender of Elon Musk. So I want to be absolutely 100% clear on that. Okay, I don't agree with everything he does. Okay, so that's it. So don't get anyone who's listening, including John, don't get that in your head because that is not my point of view. And
Alan is
certainly
now canceled.
now, I have no defensive stance for the guy. Um, that being said, I don't think Twitter had been doing anything forever. And I know, and again, some of my friends, and there are people that you don't know that I know that live out in Silicon Valley. And Twitter was a great place as a tech or a developer was a great place for you to work there for at least a year and put that on your resume because it was an easy paycheck and there was some internal toxicity and it was great for few and not great for most, but people did it because it looked amazing on the resume, just like getting that same tag for Google or Apple, right?
Yeah.
And despite their how broken they are internally or how not great they are for whatever reason, those companies, um, and whatever it was, the flavor of what your career looked like you were seeking, people would stay there for a year and then basically find their way through talent acquisition companies and people or whatever it is and work their way out of those environments to someplace better and to get their resumes up. So you ask the question, you didn't ask the question, but you kind of have to ask the question like, well, if it wasn't so great, why would people want to work there? For those reasons. That's just the way Silicon Valley and San Francisco space works, Mountain View works, right? That is, you have to kind of play some game to get yourself to a level of financial stability. That is sort of how software industry, IT, tech stuff works. And it is pretty repugnant in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. However, if you thrive on that, you can do well. And those are people that I know that have thrived on that well before it was popular, well before the internet was a thing. There was no reason for Leo Laporte to move his whole life to Silicon Valley, right? But he did
I have
because
no idea who that is.
Twit, remember This Week in Tech, that guy? Okay, some people know. But the point is that like there was a reason to show up there. The same reason why people in Hollywood would go. You know, if you wanted to be part of Hollywood, you'd have to live in near Hollywood. Um, so that being said, um, honestly, my review of Twitter is they're a well-known, established thing. They had some positives. They had a tremendous amount of community membership toxicity. They had definitely lots of internal, because again, people that I know that work there and can kind of share that with me, definitely had lots of not great stuff going on inside the company. And you go, well, what did Twitter do in the last decade? What innovation have they created?
Longer tweets.
Right.
An edit
And
button.
right. No real innovation with now. The only kind of value add is they have taken a massive amount of communication and they got from a back end perspective, we're very efficient about that in the design of the app. But outside of that, they've had no innovation. Period. Now, okay, what has come out of that? Bootstrap, Twitter Bootstrap. Okay. But that's it. They have had zero contribution to tech industry, software industry, social media industry. They have really provided zero value. And then you're going to go, well, what about Vine? What about Periscope? All right, well, those are startups. And Vine was built, right, by one of Jack Dorsey, right, I think. Periscope was a startup that got consumed by Twitter. But basically, aside from moving valuations around for VCs, what has Twitter done? Period. Yes, it became a really good place for sort of like for society. The only kind of one benefit is you could hear what's going on in the ground when a tornado happened or a tsunami came through on an island, and you get some tweets, right? You get actually some kind of real time input from a community, real input. But
Yeah, it
also
used to be
it had
reserved to like the news.
right, and from that perspective, that's an important thing. I think that's a positive thing, but that was happenstance. Twitter didn't do anything to make that happen. The community made that happen. So I asked the same sort of rhetorical question. What has Twitter done that's so goddamn important for the tech industry and the world? And that's really more rhetorical. It's really nothing like for you to have an answer, John. I mean, I don't expect it, but my point is that like everyone's like, "Oh my God, they're gonna destroy it. It was this great thing." What great thing was it? I rarely ever used it.
I think for like if you're looking at, um, from my point of view and from the people that do art stuff and whatever, it's a good way to market yourself. So it's a good like place to share your content. I wouldn't say good, but like it's an okay place to share your content, and it isn't immediately dismissive.
I mean, it is good for, I guess, some kind of degree of having public conversations with anybody, anywhere in the world. And I mean, but again,
and it isn't as
it's
controlled
not
as
like,
for example, Facebook is. So
right,
when you look at
right.
Facebook, the problem there is that you have to be in an orbit, and you have to do over on Twitter. You just shout, and people will
Could
notice.
hear you, but you also often get drowned by noise. And all the positives that are about Twitter are because of the
Yeah, but
contribution of
no,
its
no, no, no. The
community.
difference is that on Facebook there's no freaking way you're getting there, and on Twitter there is a chance of getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And on the things that are going to happen, like for example with the $8 whatever checkmark
I mean, I
plan,
think that's kind of stupid.
it is absolutely dumb. Oh
I
yeah,
just think
they're
like
gonna.
Twitter Blue could be like a pro thing, and I think there's a validity to have that check mark. Aside from it being an ego war, it should be a little less selective bullshit. That's kind of what that was happening with all these
Well,
verified
the
things.
problem with it is that he's already promising that if you don't have the check mark, you're going to be drowned out. So he's basically trying to turn it into Facebook again, right? And that's kind of the problem. He takes the relative, uh, you know, equal footing ish, right? To like, oh no, 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 everybody's going to be behind a paywall. On the other hand, he's talking about stuff about monetization for all content, which is kind of cool. Like if you can do the same thing they did with YouTube, with like
Mm-hmm.
giving people, content creators, money for what they do, what they provide, that'd be wonderful. But then again, I don't see that happening. What I
Right.
see
And
happening
I
is that
think,
they're easy going to take those $8 and then algorithmically make sure
right.
you don't get hurt anyway.
I mean, the old sort of news media way was, um, and I, I wanted to take the cynical perspective that it didn't come from an honest place. I think it came from a manipulative place. And this goes all the way back to Hirsch, that guy, back in when the guy who basically owned all the newspapers. Um, where he basically bought every newspaper so he could control the conversation, right? And there was no, it was just he controlled the publishing industry. I heard some noise. I don't know what I heard. Um,
It's the ghost from the
no,
seance.
my neighbors, one of my neighbors is still sort of, he's been moving in.
Yeah.
He's been sort of consolidating houses. Um, yeah, because his mother-in-law and like they're constantly moving trucks. I'd have to go look, but it doesn't matter. My point is, the larger point was that like they would be able to control sort of the media. Well, they became the media. They were able to control the message. They could decide what news was news, that kind of stuff. And so the thinking was that, you know, like people aren't smart enough to know what's important. So therefore we have to tell them what's important. And oh, by the way, there's value in us controlling that. And then if you advertise with us, we will control the message of your advertisement. I mean, that's what ads are, anyways, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, the
then
amount of ads we get on Twitter right now, it's absolutely insane. Like
I don't
every
use
other
it that
message is
often,
is an ad.
so I don't really see it that much, but I know they're annoying.
Well,
Um,
when I use YouTube Premium, I have YouTube Premium. It's wonderful. I just don't get any
right.
ads at all,
Instagram, it's the same
and
thing.
it's
It's
like,
really
oh.
worse. In fact, it ramped up even worse. But
Now,
so this whole idea of like people are stupid, they don't know what they want to know. That whole sort of thinking has been the way of the world forever. Then you shuffle into the 60s and the ad game figured out how to test it out the waters for a long time, and they figured out how to be manipulative, how to encourage you to be interested in an ad, how to um, explain something, the value out of something to you, or the value out of an idea to intimate a thought for you to pick up said cereal when you're walking by it in the aisle at the market, right? And, when you get to the internet, some people are just completely just like puppets to this stuff. Or like, oh, it will cure my whatever? Okay, right? Don't, no thought, nothing at all. And then there were people like you and I who are a little skeptical. It's like, hold on, that can't be true. And then you do a little research and you go, oh, no, that's not really true. Right. And, it becomes that thing. So if you don't have a conscious mind in this whole process, it's always going to be bad. It's always going to be toxic. And so someone like YouTube has so much content and discovery sucks, right? It's always sucked. So what do? They come up with algorithms that serve you stuff, and then basically what it was doing is everyone was playing a game, right? How do I become the the king of the hill, to rise to get myself into the algorithm to be seen, instead of just putting out good content and being interesting.
Well,
And
that's a
so,
good way to get a burnout.
right. And yeah, to chase that thing. And some people chased it to some success where they finally are well established, and because they're well established, they're like, I don't need to chase that game anymore because it's really not positive. And that's your Philip DeFranco and your LTT, and then the people that still play the game intentionally, your Logan Pauls, right, of the world, or all those conspiracy people. Um,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
we haven't talked about like in the last 2 months, the whole thing with what's his name, Alex Jones, almost 1 billion. Holy crap!
Well, so my long rant, which was exactly what it was, I'm aware of it, was to really kind of bring us up to the point where it had always been obvious to me that if you speak to a small group of people with sharing your interest, sharing things you like, there will be an audience for that. And I certainly saw that in 2005 and continue to see that in now through podcasting. And podcasts do well, um, because there's some degree of oh well, it may not be all true, but there's some genuine discussion there that happens usually. Then there are
Mm.
people who manipulate that. That's your Logan Pauls of the world and every Twitch streamer just about. Um, but what you get here is because they're chasing an algorithm, they're chasing the popularity game, because it's profitable. Um, and then you get things like TikTok where they're like, we really don't care about like what to tell you, what you like, but what we'll do is we'll connect you up with things that you might be interested about. And then they realize that's a really profitable, addicting process.
I kind of
Um,
wonder about that because I never see any ads on TikTok.
I never do either, but originally for a while there was. I get one every once in a while, and it might be just because I'm not consuming content about Samsung latest phone or something like that. And I
Yeah.
don't think they've figured their stuff out. But even
I don't
when they
even know how if are they even making money?
but
Probably
even
not.
before that, when they were musically, they were still sort of understood what they were doing, which was, how do we create a short video platform for the connections of interest, right? And so instead of it being the attention game and holding your attention despite whether anyone is delivering you value, it became about the interest, of connection of the content and retaining interest, right? Um, and and doing that in a short video format, and that's the one thing that makes TikTok special. And now everyone's trying to get into that. Um, I wish YouTube Shorts would be more successful than it is. Um, I wish, but
When
it
I
hasn't been.
I think moving back to Twitter, right? His plan to do like an $8 subscription, right? I understand why, to make sure you're less reliant on advertisers, um and to combat bots. At least that's the idea. At least that's what being said, to combat bots. And I have to say the bots are insane. Like I get so many follows from just bots.
Yeah.
Then I immediately have to go block them because if they flood up my list of follows, they will they will make sure that my stuff doesn't get seen. And if I call it, and if I keep it low, the amount of bots that follow me, keep it low, then I actually gain followers, but they are going to be more valuable than the fake bot followers. And there's so many people that buy bots, buy follows, and then that causes um, that causes those bots to go to other people that
Right,
you
to follow
follow
you. Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
so
That's
if you allow
why.
them to be followed, yeah. So I try to cut them out as much as possible. So if this really, and I think the whole problem here is identity verification.
Hmm.
But if you have somebody like Twitter, or let's say something different, somebody as volatile as Elon Musk is when it comes to reacting to things that hit him personally, right? So if somebody says something about him personally, he reacts uh, like I don't know, a raccoon on cocaine. It's just insane. That guy should really have a course in conflict resolution because he has no idea the amount of damage that guy does to his brand and to the brand that he bought. It's just Twitter that he just bought. Because if you sign up and verify your identity by paying the $8 a month, right? What is it to say that when you have criticism of Elon Musk or his companies, that he just doesn't dox you, right? Or something gets leaked, right? The I don't have the I used to like the stuff that he did. Like I like the SpaceX stuff. I love when he did that.
Hmm.
But then the more and more, it seems like he's just another tech bro that just got really successful and has a really short temper. Like
In that.
when it comes to this stuff. Now he's gonna get a lot of criticism because he
Hmm.
bought Twitter, right? So he's definitely gonna get that. But then maybe he should not be the one, shouting things. Like he looks like a guy who's having a manic episode. That's what it feels like.
I don't
And
follow those sort of stream of consciousness tweets. I don't really
no,
follow
but
them at
that's the
all.
problem. That's
Yeah.
the problem. The rest of Twitter does,
Yeah.
right? And like people that have been on that platform for a very long time, and suddenly, like, uh, how are you? This something similar happened to Gumroad, where they had a little kerfuffle where somebody was complaining about Gumroad, and then suddenly the CEO started, shouting out, details about,
Right. We talked about that. Yeah.
private stuff, like, and that's super dumb. And I feel like this is going to happen. He's going to have another one of those moments where he shouts out somebody in Thailand, with the divers, and he's going to say something stupid again, and that's going to dock somebody. Or maybe somebody at the Twitter is not, doesn't like it and what somebody is saying, and then, that kind of information, like for example, the private information, like the name and address and stuff that you're going to have to use to validate somebody's uh, identity,
Hmm.
that shouldn't be in Twitter. That should be something completely separate. That way you can do something like, for example, government agencies could do a
Right.
verification for their stuff, for their people. Like, for example, the U.S. government could have a hookup into Twitter, and they could pay for the check mark. And then if you have that kind of verification, if you put that verification outside of Twitter, there's no chance of
Hmm.
Twitter getting that data that they really should not have.
Yeah.
Even though, and if you decide I want to share this with Twitter, sure, but
I would think that, maybe associating that with the check mark is the bad idea. I think that should, as I agree, it should be its own
oh, it's not going to be the
verification
check
program.
mark. You're going to have something different, right?
Oh, right. It should be like Twitter Pro or something like that, or Twitter
Well, it's
Blue.
called Twitter Blue.
Right. But my point is, it should be a separate badge, and it shouldn't be related to the verification. That I think is definitely good for those cases, like actual agencies or um, I hate to say it, celebrities to some degree, so that it's, but that being said, this whole verification program, whether it was in Instagram or whether it was in Twitter, it was basically a we like you popularity party. Same thing, it went for YouTube, right?
Well, it turns
And
out that
so
there are
only if you're sponsored internally do you get those check marks. And so I still I still
Well,
throw a little BS about that process, right? And that's not dissimilar to Twitter. Um,
turns out there were people selling Twitter verifications
really,
for about 15K.
wow.
Yep.
So I
At
think
least that's the rumor that's going
yeah.
around.
So I mean, I think that should have its own kind of different attention, and that should be addressed. Um, and I think like having a little Twitter Blue, whatever Twitter Pro, whatever kind of badge, is the $8 a month thing. Um, I don't know about necessary priority, but I will say like in having run events, when you ask people to put money up, you get a much higher concentration of commitment from people who say they're going to attend versus people who do attend. And while that seems like, why are you charging me $5 a month to go to the thing? I'm like, well, because we know you're the committed 20 people instead of the 50 people who say they might come, right? Especially if there's a cost per head, right? So there's some legitimacy to want to charge for something. I think the verification checkmark thing should be out of that
Well,
entirely.
I think the by getting a verification, or at least identity verification, you can uh, get rid of most of the bots, because you'd
Mm-hmm.
have to link
Right,
it to
because
somebody.
they can't just make them sign up a free account. And yeah.
Well, you can still do that, but like the lifetime and the usefulness of one of
Mm-hmm.
those accounts
Right.
is going to be very limited.
And I will
But that
say the
but
bot problem.
this breaks the ability for people who do not have the means to pay for that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and puts people at risk, right? People who are dissidents or whatever. Normally, they would have access to something like Twitter to make sure, that their story gets heard. And with this, it's going to be drowned out, because the government that doesn't like the thing you're saying, like for example in Iran or whatever, will just say, "Okay, Twitter, here's some money. We don't want you to not do this anymore." And that people can pay with it because they don't have a credit card or whatever. There's no way for them to pay for it, so then everything gets drowned out. And from the one point, he's trying to say, "Oh yeah, but it's like I want Twitter to be the uh, the digital town center ideal thing, right?" So, and on the other hand, he's like, "Oh yeah, but to be able to speak on the town center, you need to pay." Right? So I get he's trying to make money, or he's trying to make the company
Profitable
profitable, at least healthy enough
or
to
have income.
continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and reliance on advertisers is like the one way to go. But the
Yeah, they
way
weren't
he
they weren't making any money. They were basically venture capital
there were so many
backed.
crypto ads. There were so many crypto ads,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the only people that don't care if you share it next to some,
Right.
lewd thing, right? They don't care.
Yeah.
Uh on the other hand, like getting rid of like the whole advertising stuff, I think, you know, if they don't have to sell ads anymore, seems like a good thing. On the other hand, only giving people, only letting stuff be viewable if you pay for the service, so your stuff is only seen if you pay for the service, then what good is it anymore? Right? If nothing new can be seen unless that person paid to show it, right? It's the same thing with like the whole Facebook thing, where they, oh, if you want to have your Facebook post seen, oh, you have to pay, you have to boost it, and that was the whole thing with what was it, Facebook, with Veritasium, who did like a thing where he went into Facebook and had stuff boosted. It was
Didn't
all
do
people
anything.
from India clicking on the thing, and
Right. Because
right,
it was a company or something like that.
yeah.
Um And people did
We
pay
know
for.
we know how this ends. We know how this works.
Mhm.
We've seen it happen on other social media platforms,
Yeah.
and it always goes to crap.
So, Meal sort of having a diatribe about like previous industry and being told to think and stuff like that was someone making a bet on something that probably didn't have legitimate um like study or data on it, right? And where I'm trying to go with this in my head is that sometimes people make a decision and go with something, and they basically dig their heels in because they're basing um, a set of false understanding on something because they want to achieve a specific outcome. And one of the things that I noticed in owning a Tesla, every once in a while there's a thing where people are like, "Hey, Elon," usually happens on Twitter. "We want this," and he's like, "Really?" And it's like, "We want this." "Really? We want this. This has been added somewhere else. We want this." And that's the end of the conversation. "We want this," and he'll say, "Okay, fine." There's an example of in our cars, we wanted waypoints. That was a popular thing that people wanted. There was another like third party thing where they created waypoints, and it's fantastic, but it's not integrated into our cars. It'd be really amazing if it was integrated into our car's navigation system. And so he was having whatever, like one of those quarterly meetings or whatever it was, and the audience literally that was present was shouting waypoints, 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 waypoints. And he's on stage and he's stuck. He has to respond. He responds. He's like, "Okay, fuck." And then 2 months later, it was in every car. So there are some things that, despite his imperfectness, he will listen.
Understatement of the year.
Right, but you understand, and the same thing that drives him to call somebody out is the same thing that drives an iteration because somebody dug their heels on a bet that has absolutely no established legitimacy. But it was just because a person 50 years ago said this is the way it is, right? And that's the way it has to be. And he's like, "Yeah, no, I don't think it has to be that way. And I'm empowered to make sure it doesn't have to happen that way." And that's why you get, rockets that land, right? And are reusable. And there are just little things that happen behind the scenes that aren't advertised that he has some influence on because people say this is the way it works. You don't ever do anything different than the way it works because an account will say because it's profitable, right? And that was what my whole sort of core of my other rant before, whether you leave it in or not. If it's too much, dude, please take it out. But I'm referencing a point, which is sometimes the established ways of the world aren't always there for legitimate reasons.
I get that, but the it's more of like the way that, like, when he took over Twitter, um there was so much like uh Pepe memes and stuff going on, like, oh, the 4chan bro has gotten it, 4chan bro has got Twitter, he owns this, let's own the libs and blah blah blah. Right, that's the kind of stuff that went on, like, and every tweet that the guy posts is nothing but like, oh Elon, you're so great, you're so great, you're so great. And it seems like he doesn't, you know he could use some filtering,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and definitely on the
And
things he says, because he has, you know,
so I mean we're pretty early on, and we don't know anything, and that's not a defense. That's just simply we don't know anything. So something might come out of this in the next year or two. We don't really know. It's too early to tell. It's very easy to speculate and create conjecture. Now that being said, everyone remember app.net didn't go anywhere.
yeah.
Remember, and there were plenty of other variations, right? And then we talk about Mastodon, right? And I know you put on the list, but it's becoming sort of maybe a relevant scope again. But so we hopped on, and every instance, all I felt was this continual toxicity. And I don't mean by the people running on the server. I mean the people on the community were toxic individuals who just wanted, say, hey, look at me, I'm being toxic. Twitter doesn't represent my toxicity. There's no place for my toxicity. So therefore, I'm free to be toxic here. And I felt so much of that everywhere I looked. And even where I was
On
like, oh,
Mastodon?
yeah, on Mastodon, and I was like, oh, this seems like a pretty cool instance. Okay, cool. I'll chill. I'll contribute here. I'll see what's going on, and then some variant of some level of toxicity, and then another version of that, and another version of it, and another version of it, and there is a total tremendous amount of freedom to be whoever you want to be, but what people wanted to be was publicly toxic.
That's not the experience I've had so far.
Sure,
So
but
it's kind of funny.
that's what I witnessed, and so for me, it didn't seem like if I contributed something uniquely or if I was just trying to build relationships on any of these things. I just found that there was always some degree of, what do you mean you're not this? Because I'm not that. Well, do you have a problem with that? I'm like, no, you do you, man. Like, it's all good. Well, I don't like you because you're not this. And I'm like, okay, well, that's more on you, man. And then there are people like, yeah, I agree with them because you're not this. And I'm like, okay, why is that an issue because I'm not this? Because you're not like me. And that's what I want to be. And this is what this place is for. And it's not like I joined a particular social network or something. It was like some degree of lifestyle toxicity, nerd toxicity, places where people didn't have an outlet to do that because Facebook or Twitter wouldn't allow them or YouTube wouldn't allow them. There was a ton of that. And I felt that so much. And so the only Mastodon that I basically stayed on was Mastodon Social, and the one that like a group of Philly people that started up. And
Yeah, so I haven't hopped around on many instances. I have my own instance, so that kind of saves my butt, I guess.
Yeah,
because I only follow the people I want to follow.
Right, and so I just sort of like, I don't know. It just seemed like everyone was angling for something. Now, I popped in there this year at some point, just like, oh yeah, I forgot all about this. And I was like, oh, let's see what's going on. And then you see like no one had said anything for like 2 years, that kind of stuff. When the hotness of Mastodon as a place and outlet for not Twitter, right?
Yeah, I guess that's gonna grow a little bit in the next.
It
couple
might
of
grow
weeks.
a little bit. We'll see. Maybe it does become the place that isn't the not Twitter that everyone hoped for.
Well, it's been already been growing a lot, so I've gotten a lot more followers in the last couple of days.
And I'll probably go relog in tonight or something to go check out, what's going on there. If it's liveling, I can't even say that word. If it's basically encouraging a positive atmosphere, because I kind of was looking for it and I felt very random about it and I did not find those places. And it might be just
there might be places that are very
people
clicky.
were just totally not into it, right? I even try to hop on one for podcasting and stuff, and there was just a tremendous of toxicity.
Yeah, but that's because that's the same thing that happened at Tumblr. There's so many clicks of people, and it just goes weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that's what I felt about Mastodon, and it's why I sort of fizzled out my interest for it. I didn't delete those accounts. I still have them. I could probably get back in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you stick to just one instance and just be there and have that be where you are.
Yeah, it's hard to be there when no one else is.
So you have that instance for the Philadelphia area.
Yeah, and even then, some of them, they were kind of like, some of them, and again, I know these people. This is kind of how they are. They thrive on some degree of hot take toxicity on Twitter or whatever it is on social media.
Well, there were a lot of like Mastodon instances that turn out to be like full of like racist people and whatever. So
Sure.
that they did find their way there as well as like the whole truth of social is based on Mastodon. I mean, come
Right,
on.
and Parlor spun up out of that stuff, and
I
that's
don't know if I don't think Parlor is.
Parlor's
I
like full of a tremendous amount of Trump supporters
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. But
racist
I mean,
groups.
it didn't spawn from Mastodon. I think. I think
No,
there
no,
was
it,
the
it was
My
it
Pillow
was trying to
guy.
be a copycat of Twitter, and it was a place where this guy wanted to be sort of Silicon Valley wealthy, and he created a Twitter clone, and then I think he was very much, well, I don't know. I think he was chasing some algorithm that would make him wealthy, and then he got wrapped up into the Twitter racist world. So Parler became the outlet for that. And Truth Social, I don't know what that is. It's probably just a spinoff of Parler.
Yeah.
But
So speaking of Parlor, did you see the thing that Kanye West bought is buying Parlor?
oh, really? Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
no.
yeah. That seems like this guy needs to, you know. That
Look,
is just
if you have a good community, good things can happen. Um, and I I can't say what Musk's involvement is going to be, good or bad. There is definitely some proficiency on the back end, and the only kind of things I can think of is, they do still own some IP for things like Periscope and stuff like that. I don't think that exists anymore. They could take that, turn that, and again, for me, my perspective is, I think sort of the chess moves is maybe there's some integration there into Tesla vehicles, and maybe Periscope becomes a live conferencing feature function inside Teslas, and maybe some communication mechanisms, or the back end or something from that. There's a lot of things that he does with regards to artificial intelligence in positive ways. The Tesla's dojo, for example, it's the thing they don't talk about, but they've been fabbing chips for nearly a decade now, where they've been creating artificial intelligence chips and systems for their platform. So there are some of those things that might come in and help Twitter, and its integration to other things might be positive. Um, but I don't know. I only think that in terms of the larger picture, there might be some value from some of that to come in, where he might come in and say, okay, we can fix this fundamental problem, and we can improve this, and then we can leverage it positively this way. Um,
and I just hope that the Twitter doesn't become interplanetary. I think that would be a bad idea.
we never know, right? But um, it becomes a reason to have an established communication platform is the only way to get adoption, right? And
Hmm.
what he really bought was the brand. He bought the brand, so he
Yeah.
can leverage it for more,
Did you
right?
did you see the thing Blue Sky?
No, what is that?
The Blue Sky is the new thing social network thing from Jack Dorsey.
Okay,
So it's like he wants to build like a new social network, but like from like as a uh decentralized thing, I think. So it's more of like a protocol than an actual network.
so it's gonna be blockchained.
Probably.
Yeah, yeah, and then the currency is gonna be NFTs.
No, no, no. I don't think so.
Well, I'm just picking. I mean, the blockchain might not actually be bad to be part of. It might not be efficient, but it might be a good sort of underpinning for validation of legitimacy of routing. Um, so that might actually be a good value add. But in terms of, like, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, but becomes the stupid silly thing. What keeps Elon Musk from saying, "Oh, Yeah, yeah, you have to pay $8 a month in Dogecoin. Right. I mean,
Well, I think
that's
I
a
think that's what
silliness.
all the crypto bros want
Right.
him to
Right.
do, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Right. And that becomes the why not? I can do it. No one owns me now. Right. That kind of thing. Well, the banks kind of own. You know.
I think that like he should like maybe make a distinction between when he's trolling people, because he seems to be like an edgelord troll person on
Mhm.
occasion, and between when he's trying to do something good.
But I mean, again, as I said before, sometimes smart people will challenge him, and he's like, "Well, why didn't you do this?" And he goes, "Well, we ran into this problem, blah blah blah." And it's like, "Yeah, but what about related to this?" Oh, I guess we could do that. And then half a year later, that happens, right? So
Yeah,
in
but
this same
the problem
respect,
is not that. The problem is that, for example, when Hank Green started talking about the whole situation, and he just went off on it. It's like he went off and like, oh, should Twitter just die? Is exactly
right,
the opposite of what Hank Green was saying. It's like, how do you how is he
right.
so childish, right? Somebody in charge of so much money and so much resources, and then behaves like a
But
freaking toddler.
I think people with platforms that can serve positivity will call them out, and I think
It wasn't
I
even a call out. This is the weirdest
I
thing.
know.
He didn't
I
even
only saw
tag
what
him. He's
Hank
like,
Green's
what the
side of it. He's
hell?
like, I just picked a fight with Elon Musk. That's not what I'm intending my evening to be, or something like that. I saw some
Yeah,
TikTok where
it's like,
he had
come
sort of
on.
showed this off, and I wasn't following it. I don't look at Twitter really.
But the
It's
problem is, as soon as he like goes in on people to, do say something stupid like that, he just first of all he sends like a huge field of trolls towards those people, and he just fucks up their day.
Mhm.
And like I really wish he would just be a little bit more careful about the amount of power that he wields.
Mhm.
You don't have to be a dick
Yeah.
and still change the world, right?
I mean,
you can
at least
be
if you're going to be one, be a genuine one. Don't be someone like that Australian guy or those conspiracy people. Um,
Australian guy.
yeah, Andrew something. I think Logan Paul is going to fight him or something. And this is the one time I'd be rooting for Logan Paul to kick this guy's ass. He's some kind of Australian guy who
I
just
really tried to avoid anything to do with all
sort of
brothers.
tremendous amount of negativity and uh, um, yeah, racism and misogyny and stuff like that. That's what this guy does.
Oh wow,
Yeah, and
Andrew Tate.
yeah, that guy.
Oh no, he's not Australian. He's not
Oh,
Australian.
he's not Australian.
No, no,
I thought he
no,
was Australian. Oh, well,
nope.
I only
No,
became
he's.
aware of him because he was picking a fight with some Australian news anchor or something.
Oh, I'm definitely rooting for
Logan Paul.
uh Logan Paul now. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's one of the
I
few
hope he
times
beats
where
the
I'm just like,
living crap out of him.
I want him to hurt him so hard.
There is a there was a if you follow do you follow H3?
I don't really know. I don't really follow them. I only hear mostly about it through Phil DeFranco's highlights.
Yeah. So
I think I also like Ethan, whatever his name is. Like he's
Ethan
also
Klein.
sort of like he's also pretty toxic human as well.
Not really, but he just doesn't like. I think he just doesn't like bullies. So
Right.
he's like he goes after them. So for example, he went after Andrew Tate because he was like platforming just
Hmm.
misogyny all everywhere,
Right.
and he didn't like that. Andrew Tate didn't like that, and he went after Ethan. But then again, he got deplatformed, so
Right.
Anyway, I just hope he. Oh, that's really nice that he's gonna. Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. Again, I only am aware of it through the Phil DeFranco show because I subscribe to that. So
yeah. Try to
I heard about
stay
that.
away
And I
from
was like,
the
I think
drama
this is
stuff.
one of those few times where I will actually be rooting for Logan Paul to kick his butt. Such a hateful individual.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, this is not a good. I don't think that even fighting him is a good idea, but you're giving somebody legitimacy when he really shouldn't be getting any.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that point. Yeah.
And of course, like I have no, I don't know the person, right? But like
I
from everything I've seen from that guy, it seems like not a very swell person.
No, that's kind of what I know as well. And I don't even want to bother to explore to confirm because then that just gives them, um, they benefit from it. Right. That's the whole premise of the personality and the attitude. And that's the same thing with those conspiracy people. Right.
Yeah,
Whether
it seems
they
to be getting
continue
more.
to believe it or not, I think at some point they believe themselves. Believe in their success so much they start to believe the things that they know are entirely false.
Start to love the smell of their own farts.
Yeah.
It for some reason it seems to be getting worse.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the strength and the value add and the disadvantage of the internet is you can find your people, but then you can reinforce and find your people that live in any part of the world. Um, and I am sure there's lots of racist people were in the town I live. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. I was driving through here with my stepmother, and she was like, "Oh," she made some comment well after I never noticed. She's like, "Oh yeah, I saw your neighbor had a sign up that says F, your president name, the current president name." And I'm like, "Uh huh, yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of that around here, but also you drive in the right neighborhood in King of Prussia, you find that too. So it's not like you're gonna find people all around here that have different opinions and approaches and thinking on the subject. And there's definitely um, there's been obviously including these 9 that were built plus the other 30. There's like another 40 new homes which are full of younger people who do not have that point of view. Right?
Yeah,
This town is slowly turning over to a younger generation, a little less of that older point of view.
yeah.
So, all right, let's get out of the drama. Let's get on to the fun stuff. Okay, you got the first one, man.
I've got the first one.
Yeah.
Sophia Acela, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
All human knowledge made us dumb, which kind of
Which kind
goes
of fits
back
into our
into the thing
conversations.
we're just talking about.
Yeah, which you probably will cut out.
Yep.
Or actually, that still applies to the whole discussion point of
Yeah,
this week.
basically, yeah.
All right, so yeah, that was
That's Polymatic link /16s.
Yeah, I listened to some of her music. I definitely don't mind that song. I added her to Spotify, so I'll probably check out her stuff. I kind of like the sound. I don't know when I got to some other songs. I don't know if I'm like full on 100% yet. But we'll see.
But she doesn't have that much out, so
Right. Okay, so I guess I got the next one. So AJR, 2 brothers who make music. I thought there were 3 brothers, but I think it's 2 brothers. Regardless, they live in New York. They make music, and I discovered them. I don't know, a few years ago, and I listened to a couple of those albums pretty well, a lot actually, and kind of just really enjoy their sound. I don't know that I have the latest, but one of their songs is called "Weak," and they sort of did this performance on stage where they were explaining how they were putting together the song "Weak," and that's Polymatic.link /16x.
okay. Now I've got a thing, the magic musical thing, Polymatic link /16t. But I put these links in so long ago that I don't remember what it is.
It's that weird flute thing that's like a synth where it has a bunch of cheap plastic buttons on it that costs. It's like it was probably. I think he had said somewhere in the late 70s or something. It was like a
that was the one
toy.
that was off tune and stuff, and you had to
Yeah.
fix it with a pencil.
Yeah.
Polymatic link /16t for that.
Yeah. Okay. Lost my track. Okay, got it. This was also more for you, John. I thought it was interesting. if you go and check out this TikToker, she had a couple other things. That's how I found this person. And then I was, I sort of bookmarked the follow up. But something was going on where someone had recommended or suggested that she try 3D printing on mesh. And this is sort of how she figured out how to do it. Polymatic.link/16y.
I
I
think
think she
we've
was proposing probably good for cosplay.
so I think this is very old.
Oh, is it
This has
really?
been going on for years.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think a couple of years ago I shared a link to this, to something like this,
Okay.
and I think it's gone. I think we've had it as a link a couple of times already.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah, no, I mean, for me, it
not this
seemed new.
specific video, but like we've seen this before. But like I think it even was untested at some point. So
Hmm.
yeah,
It's
it's
not a
been
new
done
thing.
before. It's not new.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really into print talk, but I do follow a couple print talkers or whatever it is. So,
Print talk.
yeah, that's what
That's
they call
the
it.
thing.
Just like they call it like book talk or whatever
Oh
it
no.
is. Yeah. But anyhow, that was polymatic.link/16y.
Okay, and then we have we tried to build a nuclear fusion reactor.
Yeah.
Polymatic links like 16U. That's physics girl and
Cleo
S-
Adams.
Simona Yetch.
Yeah. And Cleo Adams, who was working
No,
at
I think it's just
it's Simone, and then yeah, it is. I
physics
watched
girl.
it last night. Cleo Adams. She was like a reporter that did videos and stuff for Vox, and I think Vox had they had some other side thing that was all Vox related.
Oh, I missed it. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought it was physics girl. Whoops.
Um.
I made a mistake.
Yeah. No, this is Simone and Cleo Adams, but
Okay,
I think I'm saying that
my
right.
bad.
Or Abrams. Abrams. It's Cleo
I added
Abrams. I
these so
think that's
long
what it
ago. I
is.
don't remember.
Yeah. Cleo Abrams decided to leave Vox and just do her own thing, not out of any kind of negativity thing. She just wanted more control over the kind of stuff that she was putting out. And so she created her own YouTube channel and presence and stuff like that. So she talks about tech a lot, actually. So I generally follow her, but I didn't realize she shifted over to a YouTube channel. So I wasn't following the YouTube channel, but I am now.
Okay, so we tried to build a nuclear fusion reactor. Polymatic link /16U.
Yeah. I'm surprised. Oh, because I was on Cleo's YouTube channel. I was gonna say because I didn't see this on Simone's YouTube channel, so I hadn't seen the video. All right, so I thought this was pretty interesting. They titled it "How to Build a Wood Skyscraper." I think it's called CLT or something like that. So like some composite laminates and stuff like that. So I thought this was a fairly interesting video. So that's why I shared it. Polymatic.link/16z.
It seems like a very good place for some termites.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think they've done a lot of their testing, so might be a legit thing.
Yeah. Anyway, then there's some more music. Polymatic link /16v for Giselle. They stay down deep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I just again, hey, no, you hate TikToks, but pretty cool costume. It was pretty cool.
Yep.
Polymatic.link/170. For those who don't understand what the reference is, think Pixar.
Yep.
It was pretty good. I have to say, it's pretty good.
Yep. Okay, then there is Eclipses by Lissum. Polymatic link /16w. This is I think this is related to Novo Amor and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
It was pretty
Polymatic
interesting.
link /16w.
Yeah, I favorited the playlist, so I'll come back to it. All right, so this was my discovery. Definitely within the last month or so. I don't know why, but I discovered this particular artist called Blue Eyes. She has some stuff out. She's mostly fits in that sort of indie pop kind of thing, and I don't know what it is, but I just like her music. This is really one of her older songs. Polymatic.link slash 171. I thought this one would be interesting in terms of sound to you.
Yep.
And I went and bought all the singles I could get.
Okay.
So we'll see. I don't know. She's like she looks very familiar to me, like somebody that I have known in real life. The name even sounds, her real name sounds even kind of familiar, but for the life of me, I don't know why she seems familiar to me. So,
Okay. Okay, I'm not going to ask it. Alan, you can find on Polymatic.link/Alan, and you can find me on Polymatic.link/John. For feedback, you reach us at podcast@Polymatic.media. Twitter is the Polymatic. The website is Polymatic.media. I hope you tune in next time. You have anything else to say, Alan? He's shaking his head no. Okay.